morning, everybody. This isn't real churchy, maybe because I'm a new member. So, what would I like to see occur in 2024? Well, with the misery occurring in the world right now, I decided to focus on something more doable, something more personal for me personally. I'm going to call this talk a list on how to achieve successful aging. My wishes for 2024 are to continue to successfully navigate this last stage of my life and to share tips and insights I've learned with others. I'd also like to dispel the negative stereotypes of aging by focusing on the positive, thereby making this a more rewarding journey for us all. I'm old. The first time I thought about it, many years ago, upon a peek in my medical chart, I read that a young doctor had written, "This elderly 56-year-old female." Did I read that correctly? Was it someone else's chart? Shouldn't it have read well-preserved or middle-aged or something? I was horrified and insulted by this, and now, 30 years later, I think back on this incident and how it could have become a negative voice in my head. Planting of a negative seed, so to speak. Warning, if you're 50-ish, even though AARP calls you a senior, be prepared for an event like this. I do recognize that views and stereotypes on aging have been changing over the decades. There's numerous articles and research about it. Negative beliefs about aging can affect our well-being, so said a New York Times research study. This was 2022. You can live 7.5 years longer if you are successfully aging. 7.5 years. Even though we may not look or act like our grandparents or even our parents did at the same age, much can be attributed to attitude and a little help from genetics. My man-on-the-street research question demonstrates this. I ask a man, give me 5 reasons about when I say the word senior citizen. His response quickly was, clumsiness, pain, slowness, sickness, the golden years, ha. My point being that aging is too often associated with negativity. Thus my talk today on ways to change to having a more positive attitude on aging. Since moving to Laguna Woods Village many years ago, 18 years ago, I've witnessed aging at warp speed. The too often sounds of the ambulance in my cul-de-sac, it's called our national bird there. I'm told I can hear its gentle purring in our cul-de-sac, and it's a reminder that a neighbor is being assessed for an emergency room visit. Then there's watching someone slowly deteriorate mentally or physically or both, hearing of a nearby death and all the grisly details, or knowing that a neighbor has not been out of her manor for over many weeks or had a visitor. The list goes on and on. Laguna Woods is a microcosm on aging and a frequent reminder that we could all be in that category, whether we want to be or not. As a nurse specialist and later an advice nurse and an educator, I've often been the oldest by decades of those I've worked with. As a motivation on how to never be like an older person, I watch their exuberance and their energy, and I want to keep that positive energy flowing. First and most important, take care of yourself and lead a healthy lifestyle. We all know those rules. I'm not going to go over them. But feeling good about yourself and being a model for aging causes others to do as you're doing. Number 2 is, there's going to be 6 of these. Maintain a positive attitude. Laugh at yourself. Be more fun to be around. Avoid complaining. I asked a friend who has a 101-year-old great uncle, why do you like to spend time with him? And she said, he doesn't talk about himself, he listens, and he does not dwell on his problems. Number 3, Have friends of all ages, so important. Listen to and respect the views of younger people, even if the views don't agree with yours. Number 4, avoid being critical. The mark of an older person is to criticize and be preachy. The older and wiser we become, the more the temptation to instruct and be critical. I love my 3 generations of family, and I try not to be a know-it-all as I witness them making some of the mistakes that I made or making poor life decisions. However, a little advice from me when I saw it is the key word, is fine. The best technique is to be a listening post and avoid talking in paragraphs. Here's the last one. No, this is number 5. Get out of your comfort zone. A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. I love that saying. I like that saying because it's easier to stay home and maintain a predictable routine than to try something new. Join a group, take a class, travel alone. Push yourself to do unwanted or uncomfortable tasks, like speaking before a church group. Isolation can lead to loneliness, so try to avoid this because loneliness, research has shown, is the death knell for the elderly. Tapestry, with its friendliness and many activities, addresses loneliness, so this should not be an issue here, but it can be. The last one is don't sweat the small stuff. The heavy weight of feeling overwhelmed leads to insomnia, and insomnia is our chief medical complaint of the senior citizens. Fretting over trivial matters can take over, especially at night, worrying about deadlines, responsibilities that used to seem small, changes in daily routine, the children, the grandchildren, now the greats. It goes on and on. None of these are complex, and taken together can provide a roadmap on ways to successfully confront and manage this complex stage of our lives. Hey, I just had a burst of insight. These views can also be applied to anybody at any age. So here they are again in summary. Take care of yourself, maintain a positive attitude, have friends of all ages, avoid being critical, get out of your comfort zone, and don't sweat the small stuff. By focusing on these uncomplicated steps, I hope I conveyed that aging does not have to be a negative experience, but one that can be rewarding and fulfilling in spite of its hurdles. My dream for this coming year, here it comes, is to continue to work through this stage, to be a role model to others, and together we can gracefully embrace and accept the inevitable. Bring on 2024.
Thank you very much, Judy. Paul, coming up next.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Paul Bonfanti. It's an honor to be up here again and to talk about 2024. This may be a little bit of a tonal shift from Judy's because she said hers wasn't churchy. Mine might be a little bit churchy. But I have a lot of wishes for the next year. Some of these I have a lot of control over, like spending less time, wasting less time on my phone. Some of those I don't have as much control over, like the outcome of the 2024 election or my teenage daughters wasting less time on their phones. But I didn't think they were going to be here. Hi, kids. But the one I wanted to talk about today is actually a wish for Tapestry, and that's that we do the hard work around adopting the 8th principle. So a little earlier, we lit the solidarity candle in alignment with the 8th principle. Just as a review, the words of the 8th principle are, we covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. So that's the 8th principle. I'll tell you why this is my wish. But first I want to state with an obvious fact. I'm white. I'm like really white. I'm so white, and this is true, that when I was in my 20s, my so-called friends gave me the nickname Pasty. But my wife, Nikki Contractor, and our kids Sophia and Nadia, they're not white. And after 17 years of marriage and 13 years of fatherhood, my perspective on privilege, multiculturalism, and race has changed a little bit. But going back to my 20s, a long time ago, I had a sense that I was a white, straight, Christian, middle-class, cis male. I had a lot of privilege. I didn't necessarily use that language. I don't even know if I explicitly thought about it, but I knew that I had it. And I wanted to use that privilege to help others. So I was a community organizer in Philadelphia, working primarily in predominantly Hispanic and African American neighborhoods in the city. One of my first hints of privilege was when a community leader in one of the highest crime areas of the city reassured me that I was safe when I visited because whenever anyone sees a white guy in the hood, they figure he's a police officer or a social worker, and they'll leave you alone. A couple years later, I got engaged to Nikki. I had an African-American coworker commend me on sharing my power by marrying a non-white woman. I didn't really understand what he meant, but a couple months later, we got engaged. I put a picture of our wedding on my desk, and we were there dressed in our fabulous Indian traditional wedding attire. And I had a very sweet, older, white coworker come up to me and look at the picture and say, "Oh, she's so beautiful. Does she speak English?" Now, kind of looking back at the lens of privilege, I know these interactions were a window into both the kind of regular calculations that people have to make about, will I be safe if I step out of my front door? And also the routine microaggressions people of color face every day. And things that I was ignorant of because I don't face them. But when your family are people of color, you see these a lot more. Like there was a time where Nikki called me from the airport, and she had been taken aside for extra security screening because they thought that there was bomb residue on her computer. I'm listening to how upset she was, and she's thinking, I'm thinking, was she racially profiled? But even if she wasn't racially profiled, she had to think about whether she was racially profiled. So even with all this, it still took me a while to realize that our children were going to be facing the same kind of challenges, and they would go through life aware of the color of their skin in a way that I never would. And this is really hard for me as a father because I'll never fully understand it. And there's only so much I can do to change it. If my kids were male or if they were a little more dark-skinned, we'd need to be having the talk with them that parents have to have with their kids on how to deal with the police so that a routine traffic stop doesn't turn into a tragedy. And as I was saying this out loud, I'm thinking maybe we still need to have that talk with them because you can never be sure that they won't run into the wrong person at the wrong time. All of this makes me want to understand how I can support my family and how I can work towards a world where none of these things are necessary. So that's a little bit about the personal side of why the 8th principle is important to me. I'm going to switch to the professional side. As I mentioned, I've spent my life in the nonprofit field, mostly in underserved communities. And I guess subconsciously, maybe that made me think that I was inoculated against doing this work, that I don't have to do the hard work of looking at my own privilege. I talked about some of my earlier experiences as a community organizer. I'm going to fast forward to a more recent example. A couple years ago, in the wake of George Floyd's murder and the Black Lives Matter movement, I was part of a group that was funded to support small nonprofits led by people of color. The only wrinkle was that pretty much all of us running the program were white. So a few months into the program, one of the participants challenged us for having both non-diverse leadership and also for how much of the funding was going to the white-led organizations. This was really hard for us to hear, and I learned a lot from the response. Because a lot of my partners, instead of listening to and valuing her experience, they were offended. And they were saying, oh, she doesn't understand, and why isn't she just more grateful for this opportunity? These were good people, my partners. These were people who rejected racism. These were people who spent their entire careers trying to make society. But when they were asked to sacrifice a little bit than they were willing to, they resisted it. It's hard when someone holds up that mirror to you and makes you challenge your own preconceptions, but sometimes that's the only way we can change. So that's my wish for 2024, at least for Tapestry. And then instead of resisting, we take the opportunity, we look in the mirror, we listen to the voices of our fellow congregants, and we do the work. We adopt the eighth principle, we send a message to our fellow Tapestrians of color that we have their back. So when a prospective member comes into Tapestry, they feel welcome, and they look around and they see people who look like them. And I also want to do it for all of us, because I know, like me, we all come to Tapestry to learn, to be challenged, and to be better people. I want to be a better husband, better father, better friend, better human. It won't be easy, but I know we can do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And now I would like to invite Antonia Carmi.
Hello, everybody. What an honor to be here. I have been privileged most of my life by being surrounded by loving and supportive people, and I'm very grateful for that. But I also spent a lot of time on my own dealing with scary crises and traumatic events. Painfully, I learned that in every crisis, there is an opportunity, a silver lining. I was lucky that I was pointed to this discovery by wonderful, enlightened people. I had a choice, staying in a miserable victim mentality place or starting a new spiritual journey of change and recovery. I chose the second scenario. The gradual change of many years gave me a more positive outlook on the future. The beginning of a new year definitely needs to be acknowledged, and it calls for some celebration. I see it more as a gentle passage than a boom with lots of expectations. Rituals and traditions are important, though, to be more grounded and connected to one another. I grew up in Italy, where religion is entangled with ancient superstitions. In my family, it was mostly superstitions. Between my father, who was Jewish and had his own mishigas, if you know the Yiddish word, behavior, and my mother, who was an aristocratic Italian Middle European who had Southern pagan beliefs. There was not much of a religion in my home. We were often be warding off bad luck or recognizing something ominous. Never put a hat on the bed. Kiss the old bread before throwing it in the trash. Sprinkle spilled salt behind both shoulders. Discharge negative energy with your index and pinky fingers to prevent disgrace. A hunchback man brings good luck. Touch him if it's possible. Also, some numbers are good luck. I have vivid memories of my childhood New Year's Eves. We always had delicious food to eat. Children were allowed to stay up until midnight. Babies were blessed with champagne on their forehead and temples while they were sleeping. Lentil soup, a giant fat sausage called cotechino, grapes, and some other items had to be served for prosperity in the new year. Also, wearing red underwear was auspicious. Everybody were so excited. We were laughing, hugging, and we were wishing each other all the best and unrealistic possible things for the coming year. As I became an adult, my family's beliefs were not forgotten, but they were transformed somehow into moments of self-reflection and connection with the inner me. For example, if I spill the salt while I'm moving too fast or because I'm distracted, there might be something on my mind that needs attention. Or if a black cat is crossing my path, I might need to be cautious about some decision I'm about to make. If I have an open mind and make an effort to be in the present time, there is a good chance that I can have mini awakening moments. In my personal experience, these moments allow me to be more connected to my higher power and have more clarity on its guidance for me. I do believe in good wishes for the new year. To me, they are little prayers that, when are spoken or written with our best intentions, are like beams of light that travel in different directions. Peace in the world can only be achieved in our dreams, I'm afraid. But in reality, I prefer to wish peace in our hearts. I know that that is possible. My wishes for serenity, good health, prosperity, joy, are for all the people I love and care for, to everybody in my community. As a matter of fact, I wish the same to every single human being, no matter what their actions or behaviors are, or where they come from. There is so much we don't know, even about the people that are close to us. I wish that more individuals would be willing to stay teachable, to be open-minded, and to love themselves more. I wish that kindness, compassion, patience, and acceptance would increase, especially for ourselves. More love, less anger. More listening, less labeling. As per my intention in 2024, I will continue to adjust my attitude. I will try not to judge others and have less prejudices. I'm aware that I can only change myself. I will use my creativity to enrich my soul and my heart. I will play more and worry less. I will do my best to help making a difference in our community for the hungry, the women and children who suffer, the homeless, and in general, the underprivileged people. I will not be afraid to be different, to be an individual. I wish for myself good health, love, prosperity, and fun.